October 1st. No, okay. So when it's. Almost didn't go down. Get out. I mean,
This thing is freaking great. It's like, Getting you ready, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Riker City Council meeting for October 15th, 2024. Just to remind everybody to please silence their cell phones. And Miss City Clerk will just note that Councilman Davis is out under the weather and will not be tonight's meeting. And then also want to welcome back our councilman and my pro tem, Councilman Coy, back to the diocese here. Welcome back. It's good to see you. And would you like to say anything before we get going? Okay.
Turn it on. There you go. I just want to say thank you for all the kind words and kind wishes I got. I appreciate that.
All right.
Back to normal.
Welcome back. Okay. All right. Special presentations and or announcements. This time's slot is for informational presentations, appointments, and awards to be presented by the City Council or to the City Council. This is the 17th annual Read Across Siskiyou event, First 5 Siskiyou Children and Families Commission. Mr. Ledbetter, who do we have tonight? Oh. So, no, it's Jean.
It's me. I have gifts for everybody here. My name is Jean Trevison. I'm with First 5 Siskiyou, and we're having our 17th annual Read Across Siskiyou on November 13th. And Dr. Perlman and First 5 17 years ago began this program, and it's where the same book is read to children all across Siskiyou County. And we are looking for celebrity readers if anybody may be interested. Great, thank you. And we do have the proclamation, and I believe, are you reading it tonight, or am I reading the proclamation?
It could go either way. I think I could do it, or I know in the past Michelle read it, so I don't think it matters, does it?
Okay, I'm happy to read it if that's all right. Okay. Proclamation on the 17th annual Read Across Siskiyou event sponsored by First 5 Siskiyou Children and Families Commission. Whereas the ultimate goal of the First 5 Siskiyou Children and Families Commission is that all Siskiyou's children from prenatal through 5 years of age will be healthy, ready to learn, and supported in a safe, nurturing families and communities. And whereas children in Siskiyou County from prenatal through 5 years of age have successful start in life through daily reading with supportive and nurturing families, caregivers, educators, and community leaders. And whereas early literacy is the foundation for academic, social, emotional, and economic success. Whereas First Five Siskiyou, in partnership with Siskiyou County Library, dedicates one day each year to promote literacy by providing the same titled book to be read by guest readers to children in various preschools, kindergartens, childcare settings, libraries, and online events throughout Siskiyou County on the same day, and provide each child with a copy of that book to take home. Therefore, the city of Wairika proclaims on November 13th as the 17th annual Read Across Siskiyou, and be it that this body enthusiastically endorses daily reading, singing, and playing with children as a critical foundation for healthy development and lifelong success.
We'll be down on your list.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, that's awesome.
All right.
Okay, and I do have the proclamation to be signed. Okay, and actually, I'm going to get you a different copy. So is that okay? Okay, thank you, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from the council? Or comments?
Thank you so much for bringing this forward, and add me to your list of readers.
Okay, thank you so very much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Great public comments. Public participation is welcomed and invited at all city council meetings. This time is set aside for residents to address city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the regular agenda. If your comments concern an item noted on the regular agenda, please address the council when that item is open for public comment. The city requests that persons addressing the city council refrain from making personal, slanderous, profane, and disruptive remarks. Council members and recognized by the mayor may ask clarifying questions of the presenter, but no action may be taken by the city council during public comment section of the meeting. Under the Brown Act, the city council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not listed on the posted agenda. This time is set aside for residents to address the city council on matters listed on the consent agenda, as well as other items not included on the agenda. If your comments concern an item listed under the public hearing or new business section of the agenda, please address the council when that item is open for public comment. Please speak into the microphone from the podium. The podium electronically adjusts up and down to accommodate the speaker. Please state your name for the record prior to providing your comments. Please address the council as a whole. If you have a document to present, please provide a minimum of 7 copies. These become a public record. Please limit your remarks to 5 minutes. Since council is unable to take action on issues not on the agenda, your matter may be referred to staff for follow-up or placed on a future agenda. The public comment period is not intended to be a question and answer period or conversations with council or city staff. Public comment? Nope, has someone up already. So public comment, please.
Name's Luther Finley with the Wairika Seventh Adventist Church. I'm the Social Services Director for the church. And for the last 5 years, we've been making meals and taking them out to the our unhoused friends. And we started in the old the Catholic Church across from the courthouse. And but nobody was coming there, so we started taking the meals out to the Greenway, the Hill, and around the Walmart and Goodwill. So a lot of these people become friends. We know them by name. We look them in the eye, and we give them hugs. We pray with them, and so, anyways. I just sort of did an informal survey tonight, you know, with their, I have a bell that I ring, a triangle bell, and I deliver meals to the Hill is my area. And so we been increasing the meals we made, you know, from 60 to 72 to 84. Now we made 96 tonight. That's just about enough. And so I did a little informal survey, you know, with people we're serving. You know, what are they hearing about November 1st and what are their plans on doing? And there's a lot of disinformation going on. I asked about a ticket, you know, you get a ticket for violating the ordinance or ticketing place in the United States, Amtrak or Greyhound goes, and a lot of people didn't hear that, you know. I got a couple people that sort of heard that. So a lot of those people on the Hill won't go to the shelter. They said they'll probably go to the Greenway. And the the shelter's, you know, not a good option for a lot of them because they check in for the night and then the next day they get their belongings and where do they go? You know, they're just going to be wandering the streets. So I don't know, the plan is to confiscate what property they can't walk away with. And so I just don't know what that plan is going to be. I mean, how there's a lot of people out there. It's going to be a full-time job just to manage it. What if they want to access some of their property when they come back? I don't know. Just I was thinking, you know, if there's another campground that could be set up with bathrooms, maybe the property north of the Highway 3, you know, on North Main, you know. I understand there's bathrooms there. I was a drug addict and alcoholic for 20 years. And it was just people showing me compassion and love, you know, that helped me get off the drugs, and my mom's prayers. And these people are fellow human beings, and that Jesus died for, just like you and me, and they just deserve our compassion. And so, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Melissa Cummins. I'm a resident of Wairika. I actually handed your city manager a flyer. I wanted to invite all of you to join us on Saturday, October 26th. We're doing an event called Pause for a Cause. It's being put on by the Freedom Canine and Siskiyou Pet Care in conjunction with the Siskiyou Humane Society. And it's an event where you can actually bring your pet to Greenhorn. We're having it at Greenhorn Park. And you can bring your pet with you. There's a 1 mile option, or there's also a 5K up on the trail. So we would like to invite all of you to come join us. We're hoping to have a good time, have good weather, hopefully. And I'll see you all in a little bit.
Thank you.
Mariachi, as many of you know, I get emails from a lot of people, a lot of your constituents who obviously they are yelling at me. The Miners Street Stadium on Knapp Street, the Miners Stadium on Knapp Street desperately needs new bleachers. They are very dangerous and falling apart. They lift up when you walk on them, and there are huge gaps between the wood, making the children fall in between them. Children are being hurt. I'm sending this to you, Dawn Marie, because I know you listen. And she asks that the city please fix this. The city is falling apart around you. Could you please pay attention? Have you ordered the Greenway Bridge to be fixed yet? Or are we waiting for a homeless person to sue the city? Please fix this. Winter is coming. We need a warming shelter put in place now. Please don't wait for me to call you, because this year I might be calling you late at night. The schoolhouse looks perfect to me, and it's right down from where most of them are. They could at least go and get warm for a few, 20 minutes before they go back to their houses, their tents. And it's enough time to save a life. It's enough time that their stuff won't get stoled, and they'll go there. Unlike here, where it's too far away and they won't come. We already know that. Thank you. Stan. Go forward.
Any other public comment? Okay, I'll close public comment and we'll go to item number 4, consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and non-controversial and will be enacted by one motion unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. A, approval ratification of payments issued from September 22nd, 2024 through October 5th, 2024. Approval of minutes of a special meeting held October 1st, 2024. C, approval of minutes of the regular meeting held October 1st, 2024. D, adoption resolution 2024-42, the city council of the city of Wairika authorizing investment monies in the local agency investment fund. E, approval of proclamation of the 17th annual Read Across Siskiyou event.
So move.
Have a motion from Councilman Cake,
I'll second it.
and a second from Councilman Baker. I'll do roll call. Councilman Cake,
Aye.
Councilman Baker,
Yes.
Councilman McCoy,
Aye.
and Mayor Middleton, aye. The motion passes 4-0. Okay, 5. This is old business. This is our city manager. This is the agenda title, item A, Wairika Fire Department. Mr. Ledbetter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Wairika City Council. Chief Lemos and I are gonna handle this one together, and ultimately, it's a very familiar presentation that you have seen multiple times over, and so we've kind of synthesized this down a bit. But I'm going to start by reading the staff memo as I did last time. So just give me a moment to find that.
All right.
So I'm just going to walk through this staff memo here. So on April 20 of 2021, the city of Wairika City Council voted 5-0, approving a planning grant application for $250,000 of funding for a new fire station project. This was going to site a new station and then start the engineer and design, which would be substantially more than $250,000. On October 4 of 2022, the city of Wairika City Council voted 5-0 to create a fire department ad hoc committee. The ad hoc consisted of 2 Wairika City Council members, the city manager, assistant city manager at the time, Retta Hogan, the current Wairika Fire Department staff and volunteers, as well as prior volunteers, participation from the State of California Office of Emergency Services, CAL FIRE, South Wairika Fire, Montague Fire, Caduck Emergency Staff, and Siskiyou County Supervisor Ogren all participated in all or the majority of the ad hoc meetings. Perspectives from Fairchild Medical staff and Madrone Hospice staff were also considered and discussed. The feedback from the ad hoc meetings were to add paid fire staff to the Wairika Volunteer Fire Department. To mitigate the pressure and burnout on volunteer staff, the idea to add paid staff to limit the need to have volunteer response on medical calls was made a priority by the ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee also recommended a new fire hall in order to accommodate the needs of the city. The current facility is built in 2 phases, the 1930s and then an addition in the 1960s. The facility has many historical issues in relation to structure stability, as well as the standard limitations from the eras the phases were constructed at the time. And the reason that I continue to go back to the ad hoc committee is that this just isn't something that one day Chief Lemos and I were sitting around and we were like, man, we should get a new fire station. You know, we went out to the experts. This took a year and a half. Ultimately, everybody involved locally that does emergency response and fire came up with the same conclusion. The city needs paid staff. The city needs a new fire hall. So on September 5th, 2023, the city of Wairika City Council voted 4-0 with Davis absent to contract with Nichols, Melberg, and Rosetto, also known as NMR, for architecture, engineering, and construction management services for the Wairika Volunteer Fire Department new fire station project in an amount not to exceed just over $1 million. And so There's different phases of this contract, and ultimately there's phase one design fee of about $450,000. There's some construction documentation, there's some construction administration. And ultimately, the city has been using the CDBG grant, which we've almost exhausted. And so ultimately, there will have to be some gap funding that we discuss at a future date on how we go about completing our plan set so that we have a finished plan set that we have approved and that we know we want to build, and then we go seek our funding for it. So here's the addition as compared to the last meeting, just trying to think about a clever way or to discuss this without making any type of ridiculous promises, because we're all dealing with the kind of falling apart of the insurance industry on some level as we see what happened in Tennessee, North Carolina, and Florida. The City of Wairika Fire Department is audited every 5 years by the Insurance Services Office, also known more commonly as ISO, and then receives what is commonly referred to as our ISO rating. The ISO rating is in relation to the fire risk of urban area, and the wildland-urban interface is not a part of this rating, and it presents its own issues for attaining home fire insurance on its own. The fire suppression rating schedule is used to determine these ratings. So the FSRS breaks the audit into 4 primary areas: community risk reduction, that scores up to 5.5 points on a 100-point scale; emergency communication systems that score up to 10 points on a 100-point scale; your water supply that scores up to 40 points on a 100-point scale; and then your fire department as a whole that gets half the points, so 50 points available there. The final ISO rating can then be used by insurance providers to determine the annual costs they will provide to homeowners to insure their homes. And so the city currently sits at a 4 rating after the last audit, but the age and maintenance of equipment, the facility, staffing levels, and response times all play a role in the final ISO rating within that 50 points of a fire department. So if there's a question over, would any of these improvements have an effect on my fire insurance or the rating? Hypothetically, yes, they would. But with the insurance market the way that it currently is, it's just inappropriate to say what exact effect it would have on somebody, because we're seeing people pull out of the state of California. We're seeing people that are just getting dropped if they didn't reapply in time. And so it's hard to say what the future of insurance holds. But inevitably, as far as the ISO rating, absolutely, the age and maintenance of equipment, the facility, staffing levels, and response times would all play a role in our future ISO rating, which has an effect mostly on everybody's insurance in this community. So the increased call volume since 1990 is mostly attributable to the increase in medical call emergencies. Volunteerism has decreased nationally, and the trend does not appear to be changing. The age of the current fire hall poses issues for proper functionality and response to emergency. The need for a new fire hall and paid staffing continues to be the most logical solution for the issues at the volunteer Wairika Fire Department. And staff has prepared a slideshow to discuss what a new fire hall and paid staffing would look like if funding were made available to the city of Wairika with new revenue streams. And so I'll invite Chief Lemos up, and then we will do this slideshow together.
Good evening. Jerry Lemus, your city fire chief. So if you recall from past presentations, and for those that are not familiar with it, as Jason indicated, we've been presenting this same slideshow for a bit now, but we'll try to hit the high points this evening and try to answer any questions that anyone might have. Next slide. So essentially, as Jason alluded to, and we've mentioned it in prior sessions, that if you pay attention to the bar graph there on the screen, you can see from early 90s, when we got into providing medical response to the community, that it just went, it skyrocketed over time. continually increasing the numbers to, in 2022, we ran, over 2,000 calls, and those were, in the medical calls are indicated in the blue section, and fires and other emergencies were are indicated by the orange section. So as you can see, that's pretty substantial increase. So next slide. A key point to keep in mind is the responders themselves and what they put out for their efforts to the community. So in this case, we have bar graph showing one individual that ran in 2022. When we had a total of 2,025 calls, that individual ran 1,118 calls, just that one person. And then we went on down to another individual that ran 952, another one that ran 944 and 659. And as you move on down the scale, there's a lot of folks in there that what they could do, what they could provide in terms of response was still significant, but we just picked the top four there. I was just speaking with someone today, and we were trying to think of another way to kind of do the shock and awe of sometimes what happens in the fire service. And in January of this year, we had 2 days in January. One day we had 16 response or calls in one day in a 24-hour period. Another day we had 14. So if you stop and think about that, what could you do that many times in a day where you were constantly back and forth from your job or your home or whatever? And it kind of, it's, I still can't believe it myself at times. And it's just, people are just constantly going. And so that hasn't changed. We still have multiple times in a year where we have 2 to 3 to 4 calls back to back to back. And it's hard to imagine, but to do that with a volunteer staff is even more amazing. So that's where the burnout comes in, when you get to the point where you have new volunteers that come in and they experience that and they're like, oh, this is not what I signed up for. I'm never home. And that's the concern, right? We want to keep the volunteers there. We're always going to need volunteers, but we need that paid staff to take care of the lion's share of the work and not run people off because they're constantly going and, can't be at their job or can't be with their family. So anyway, I don't want to elaborate any more than that. Next slide. Training is another big portion of what we have to contend with. Just had a meeting here recently over some other regulatory items that we have to account for. And it's not so much training, but there's always things in the mix when it comes to new requirements. But training is a huge part of it, so we can stay proficient and provide that response that's needed, whether it's structure fires, wildland fires, medical, hazmat, and having proficient drivers and operators of the apparatus as well. We have to have training in all those areas. And it amounts to, on a good year, if we can get everything done, with trainings 2 to 3 times a month, is 500 to 600 hours. So it's busy, very busy. Next slide. And that's priority. In my mind, paid staff is a higher priority than anything else. But equally important in this case is the need for a new fire station based on what we've experienced in years past with sinkholes, the asbestos, poor exhaust. Not very energy efficient. I can tell you that. We do okay with our sleepers that are there. They haven't complained about being too cold, but it's just not designed for up to current code standards. And we're running out of room. The apparatus these days are longer, taller, wider, you name it. They're a lot bigger than what that station was built for, especially the one that was built in the 30s, the one to the left, as you face it from Minor Street, the first 3 engine bays. Typical lifespan for an essential services building, which this is 50 years. You do the math, it's 80 to 90 years old now. So we're way over that. Concern is, some sort of seismic activity could cause those doors not to be able to open, and we'd not be able to get the apparatus out to help other citizens in Wairika City, which, as you know, we have underground propane, and that could be a problem just like San Francisco experienced in 1906, and we sure don't want that. So it's also not ADA compliant. We don't have a good anyway, really, other than a phone call or somebody throws a rock and hits the window, but in order to get a hold of someone to, hey, I have a question for you. We don't have an office. We're not set up for that. And that a new station would be, that's designed into the new station. So all those things combined would bring us up into, modern times with, normal operating fire department as busy as ours. Next slide. So in March of 24, as the memo says, when this issue came up, I went to the membership and I explained everything to them that we were considering, how we're going to solve this problem. And it was decided that we had two ways to go, a general tax or a special tax, and explained all the different pros and cons to each. And the department decided that they would like a general tax because they would rather have the lower standard, if you will, the 50% plus one, to hopefully get this passed and get us some paid staff and a new fire station. So that was the reasoning behind that. So next slide.
And thank you, Chief. If you don't mind just staying up there, I'm going to take it from here, and then we have some renderings at the end, and then obviously the video that we're going to show as well, and then questions. So you can move on to the next slide, please, Cindy. And so, to synthesize a problem statement, as Retta Hogan used to like to create problem statements so that we are making sure that we're solving the problem, we've kind of synthesized it as follows. Emergency calls have increased by a factor of 15. Medical calls make up 80% of the Wairika Volunteer Fire Department response. Since 1990, calls for service have increased from just over 100 to over 2,000 on an annual basis. Since 1990, at the time that we wrote this, volunteers have decreased from over 41 to below 22. Next slide. So going through this process, we worked with our bond counsel, Cameron Wiest, and we looked at the most ideal ways to debt service a new fire hall. And we do have a meeting later this month with Cameron Wiest where we will be discussing the USDA loan option. And that's what you see here before you are two different costs, essentially a $15 million loan and a $23 million loan. And really the design we currently have sits really in between both of these values. And so we can anticipate that we would be making an annual payment of less than $1.1 million over 40-year term if we did move forward with the project, and if we move forward with a USDA loan, which would be our most ideal, as it has 40 years instead of 30, and it generally has a very lucrative rate in relation to what you can get out just on the general market. Next slide. And then we looked at our staffing, and I think primarily we talked to a number of different agencies, but we really enjoyed engaging Anderson, California, and they have a 4896 paid staffing model. They have 3 employees on at all times, but with what we're attempting to do, we're not attempting to have the Taj Mahal solution. We're attempting to have a functional solution. And so we would advocate to bring on 6 employees. We would have essentially 3 different 48-hour shifts that would get worked, and 2 people would be on all the time living at the station, and they would work 48 hours on, and then they would take 4 days off, and then they would, we would have constant coverage based off of that type of scheduling. Next slide. And so when you look at the cost of that, and I know if you've seen the prior slideshow, you've seen the cost estimates for the federal standard, which were roughly $5 million annually. And the reason that's in there is just to showcase that we went through the process of what's the ideal solution, and then we saw the price tag on that and said, there's no way we can afford something like that. So how do we pare this down to something more reasonable? And based off of hiring 6 people on a 4896 with the worst possible outcome of the highest tiered step, we would be looking at roughly $900,000 annually for salary. Next slide. And so with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Chief Lemos, and we have some renderings. This one is the overhead shot kind of cartoon of very specific features of the building that we currently have been working on with NMR. And Chief, I'm not sure if there's anything that stands out that you want to go over with this and the next slides before we get to the video.
No, just real quick, I'll keep it brief. In the on the left, the tan section, that just you can see and this is a good blown up version of it, but the apparatus bays where I was talking about, I don't know, maybe it wasn't this evening, but prior presentations where we talk about stacking the apparatus. You can see the little boxes inside of there. That's simulating the apparatus. So we would stack the apparatus in that fashion, some facing forward, some, out the front towards the street, and some, towards the back. And then we can have, depending on what their assignments are. And that way it eliminates having to back in, which most accidents that we, not that we've had, but we have had some, but they're created by, having to back in, and as opposed to pulling in. The yellow section there, that'd be a education or training room. The lavender or purple sections there in the front, you can see that right below the peak there, there's it's an antique apparatus that would be displayed in the front. And that's always a nice touch. We have that from our museum. And then additionally, that's where all the public would come in and they'd be greeted. And then there's office space behind that. The blue section shows, there's a fitness room, kitchen and dining, day room, utility room. And then one of the important things that we're working on now, as I kind of alluded to with some of the class that we took recently on, had to do with decontamination of our turnout gear, but we have special setup in this design so that all the dirty area, or the dirty turnout area that when you come in after a fire, you keep all that stuff separate from, where you might be having your lunch and, dinners and that sort of thing, so that you're not exposing people unnecessarily to potential carcinogens. So that's a big deal nowadays for cancer prevention. So can't stress that enough. And then there at the bottom there in the blue, we have the bunk rooms for the staff. So it's got everything we need. And that's a pared down square footage from the original design. So I'm excited and hope that it works. Next slide. So for those of you who may have seen this before, I think I'm absolutely excited about this, how this might look. The renderings that NMR did to me they were shocked that we were happy with the first one they presented. So they were pretty worried, but I got to say, it looks really nice. I mean, if they can pull that off, I think we would all be very, very happy. It's a very nice looking facility. As you can see, the engine bays would be facing, out from the front, and you have, obviously, that you can't see that there's a way for other apparatus to go out the rear of the building too, but very nice looking facility. Next slide. Kind of a different view from the front, and that would potentially be from the south. You can see the emblem and City of Wairika Fire Department there on the front in the stone there. So very nicely done. Next slide. And kind of a comparison there of two different shots. So next slide. And there you kind of see what it might look like from the back, where we have on the bottom left there, that kind of simulates where we would wash fire hose after, it's been out on a call and it's, all black and dirty from charcoal and mud and everything else. You wash it off and dry it. And, we have a lot of room on the potential site for training. We have room for, pulling off the old hose, loading it, it could all be done right there. We don't really have that where we're at now. It's rather problematic. So that is one big plus that I haven't really talked about much, but just knowing the extra room that we would have, it's very, very advantageous, and it's much, much safer too. We can do a lot more on that parcel. So, and then on the right, just kind of shows you the number of engine bays and just a little different overhead look of the facility without all the clutter of the different text you have on the first floor plan. So next slide. That's it. Okay. Questions? Anybody have
Or
questions?
we're going to watch the video first,
Oh, yeah,
if that's
sorry.
okay, and then we'll take questions.
Welcome to Wairika Fire. This is Lay Station. This section was built in the 1960s and done mostly by volunteers at the time. And this is our fire museum. What you see here is our 1931 Seagraves ladder truck. And next to it is the pumper that accompanied it. And they were both in service in this department in the early 1930s. Lots of history. You're looking at our ladder truck. It's a 75-foot Quint, and we've had this since 2008, and does a great job for us. As you can see, the station was built for smaller apparatus. You can see there's not a whole lot of clearance there at the top of the ladder. One reason why we need a new station, because when we have to replace this, it may not fit. We had to cut down the handrails on this to make it fit because they stood up taller, so we had to cut those down and reinstall them. This structure was built in the 1960s, and it was a large addition for the time. We've already more or less outgrown it. We have to back in from Minor Street. We don't have pull-throughs, which can create a traffic snarl at times when there's a lot of traffic early in the morning, people going to school, going to work, that type of thing. You can see that the apparatus was much smaller, much narrower, not as tall, and so the width of the engine bays is smaller, so is the ceiling. And as you can see that, a lot of it is in a state of disrepair from the plaster that's fallen off, the sinkhole that was here in the floor, and a number of other issues with lack of proper exhaust. You can see by the color of the walls in places it's dirty and dingy from diesel exhaust. And with today's emphasis on trying to have a reduction in cancer exposure, we need to have an area where we can remove our dirty turnouts and launder them without contaminating the rest of the station with potential carcinogens. We're doing the best we can with what we have, and time for a new one.
All right. Well, that pretty much concludes our presentation. If anyone's curious, the video was created specifically with that version of the Vision, so that it played really on the grapevine or on Facebook on phones ultimately. So that was the original intent if anybody had a difficult time seeing it. But we are here to answer any questions, and ultimately, Mr. Mayor, you'll have to get public comment at some point.
All right. Thank you, Chief Lemus and Mr. Ledbetter for the presentation. We'll go to council first for any questions or comments. Councilman Baker.
Thank you so much. Mr. Ledbetter, let's talk about insurance ratings. I want to make sure that I understand this. Out of a possible 100 points, Wairika Fire Department has a 4 rating.
You could look at that and essentially, basically, they consolidated that down into a percentage then. So ultimately, it's a 4 out of 10 on the ISO rating. And then on how they determine the ISO rating is that acronym of whatever FSRF, or that's on a 100-point scale, which then is converted into a 10-point scale ultimately. So 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. The city of Wairika stands at a very reasonable 4 ultimately. And then the inputs to that are on a 100-point scale.
Thanks for explaining that, because I was like,
Good question.
Anyway, so, and when is the fire department due for its next, insurance audit?
Every 5 years.
Yeah, so I think 4 years from now, maybe.
I remember when that last one, I thought maybe you alluded to it in there. It's probably going to be year 26 or 27. Yeah, I can't recall exactly the year that we just completed it and it was finalized, but I will get that and make sure you have the right info.
Thank you. And
Right.
during that audit, do the auditors actually do a walkthrough of the fire department?
They used to. This past evaluation, I think it was right at the tail end of COVID. So it was all done by phone and computer. So very disappointed in that because I think you get a better end product when they're here and they can see what you actually have. But we did the best we could, and we made improvements since then. So we're in good shape. We're fine, but we have things that we can work on, and some of these things will help that.
Thank you so much. And I'm breathing easier over the 4 rating, understanding that it's pretty darn good. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Baker. Good. Councilman McCoy.
Hey, Chief and Mr. City Manager, one of the things that I've discovered as I looked into this maybe 4 or 5 years ago was that the city does not own that building, nor do we own that property. It's actually owned by the Lay family. And in fact, on the deed of trust, it says that when we vacate that we have to offer it back to the Lay family. Are you both somewhat, you're probably somewhat aware of that? Whether or not they accept it, I understand, but.
Yeah, I have the copy of the deed in my office, and so it is kind of a convoluted situation, but we technically own it, and there is a reversion clause on the deed that when it's not a fire hall, the city no longer owns it. It immediately reverts back to the Lay family. And so it's kind of difficult to determine what does that mean really. And so I would assume that if we were to vacate that building, that a lot of people may look at that building as a liability rather than an opportunity. And we'd be dealing with a family that was splintered off. So regardless of what were to happen, I've already started to plan with the Economic Development Council. If for some reason, if this were to move forward and the city then got rid of it and it was reverted to an individual, then we would work with them to go get grant funding to abate a multitude of things that are obviously problematic on the site. Or we could expect the possibility of maybe some family members telling us that they don't want it back and that they wanted the city to maintain and then deal with those issues. So, but yeah, there's a deed. So as long as it's a fire hall, then technically we can operate out of it as though we do own it. But you are correct, sir. As soon as it's not a fire hall, it's no longer technically considered to be our property.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman McCoy. Okay, I don't have any questions, so we'll go out to public for questions or comment for either Mr. Ledbetter or Fire Chief Mr. Lemus.
Well, I was just curious, where's the proposed location of the new firehouse?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. And do you have any other public comment, Luther? Okay. Yeah, right now, we did look at different siting options. We don't own any of them, so we can't say with any clarity or certainty that we technically would do anything hypothetically, but we are advocating, Chief Lemos and myself, I think Chief has been advocating long before I even came on the scene here, is that we would prefer one of the locations, and we've talked to the owners, but ultimately our preference is we would come in here and hopefully sell to the public and to the city council that the Shop Smart building site would make a lot of sense for a multitude of reasons, the central location. And then from the city standpoint, ultimately being able to get rid of blight and then stand up a beautiful new safety building in that site would be, in my opinion, absolutely ideal.
Anybody else? Questions or comments? No? All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all the work that went into the video and presentation. It turned out very nice, and great job on that. So, sorry, got to get back here. Okay, no public hearing, so we are at item number 7. This is new business, municipal projects manager. This is the agenda title, approval, authorization of the mayor to execute the Siskiyou Transportation Agency Joint Powers Agreement, JPA, for the direction and management of the public transportation services in Siskiyou County. Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Cindy Lynch, Municipal Projects Manager. Before you tonight, we have a request that council authorize the mayor to approve signing the Siskiyou Transportation Agency Joint Powers Agreement to direct and manage public transportation services in Siskiyou County. Melissa Cummins, the executive director of the LTC, has graciously volunteered to come and explain everything to you far better than I could. So if Melissa wanted to come up. Like podium musical chairs. Good evening again. Melissa Cummins, the Executive Director for the Siskiyou County Local Transportation Commission. So a little bit of history for you. Stage has been operated as a county department since its inception back in the early 80s. And so that means that the Board of Supervisors has always been the final decision-making authority for the operations, the day-to-day stuff, budgets, new staffing requests, fixed asset requests, everything under that kind of realm. And so earlier this year, the county administrator came to the Local Transportation Commission and also went to the Board of Supervisors seeking direction to form a joint powers agreement to basically manage Stage. So that would take Stage out from under the Board of Supervisors realm and put them under this new Board of Directors. The couple of questions that have come up is hold on, I gotta look at my notes here. Will the commission continue to exist? And actually, I brought a handout for you that kind of outlines the roles and responsibilities of both entities. Your city manager's gonna get tired of me handing him papers this evening. Yes, sir. So, so the handout that Mr. Ledbetter is handing you, on the front page, it outlines the roles and responsibilities of the Transportation Commission as the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. And so right now, the commission has one employee, which is myself, and our role is transportation planning. And so you may recall, I visited you earlier this year. We talked about pavement. We talked about Regional Transportation Improvement Program. They do all of the unmet needs analysis each year. And then if you flip to the back side of that page, this reflects the proposed organization for the new JPA, otherwise known as Siskiyou Transportation Agency. And that will be the Board of Directors, which is going to be the same individuals that sit on the LTC. I will be their executive director, and then below me will be all of the current Stage employees, drivers, mechanics, admin staff. And their roles and responsibilities as the Board of Directors there will be to do the oversight, just like you do approving budgets, approving staffing requests, approving fixed asset purchases. And so the question, actually, Mr. Jarrett asked a question when we met a few weeks ago. If I could sum it up in a few sentences for you, why the change? The city contributes funds every year to the operation of Stage, but you've never had any direct oversight or ability to provide direction on how those services were implemented. So this proposed agreement will basically formalize your partnership in the overall transit operations and give you more representation in how those services are implemented. So the goal is that the LTC will be the same individuals, as I mentioned, as this new Board of Directors. That is simply because they're already meeting, and we figure we'll run it just like the board does with the flood control district, where they recess the board as this Board of Supervisors. They'll reconvene as the flood control district. So basically the same setup. So we will have two meetings on the same exact day, same individuals, and your representation will come through the city selection committee. So many of you are familiar with each year, city selection committee appoints individuals to serve on various committees. So whomever you appoint to LTC will also be appointed to serve on this new Board of Directors. So I will stop there and see if you have any questions. And then go from there.
All right, thank you. Council members, questions?
I think it's a good deal.
Councilman Baker?
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
Absolutely.
So the funding will still remain the same with the, it's my understanding in the past. It was my understanding that stage was funded by the county.
Not technically, no. So stage is primary, it's not general fund. It receives no general fund dollars. Stage is operated by fares that they collect on the buses. It's funded by federal grants and more recently in the last 5 to 7 years, a lot of state grants. So all of that will remain with stage. They also receive local transportation funds through the commission, and that is a portion of the funds that the city contributes to pay for a portion of those costs, and that's your contribution towards the services. So no general fund dollars, primarily grant funds, transit funds, that sort of stuff is what pays basically the day-to-day stuff for them.
Thank you. And will your administration costs go up or will they remain the same?
We're expecting them to go down a little bit. Right now, stage is under another department within the county, and there's a lot of other admin staff. And so kind of bringing that under where I'm the executive director, my time will actually be split between stage and the commission. So I think it's going to go down a little bit. So because there's not going to be as many people helping, and that we have a core staff of folks. So we're really watching all of the expenses. We're scrutinizing every cost right now. Just because everything's going up as we're hearing.
Yeah.
So we're really scrutinizing every cost and identifying, is it necessary? Is it something, we've just been paying, and do we need to continue to pay it? So that's kind of something we've been working on already. So we're hoping to kind of bring those costs down. In addition to that, we're always seeking other grant funds. We are also looking at we have another pot of money that just became available to us. We just got the check a few weeks ago to look at a different model of providing services. So instead of big buses kind of running up and down on the highways, looking at more of a intercity, small vans, smaller buses to provide more frequent service, reduce costs from fuel and that sort of thing. So we're looking at all different options. So to help reduce costs, to your point.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Other questions? All right.
Good.
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Right. What's that? Yeah. Just making sure nobody else had.
Sorry.
You were looking at me like.
Sorry.
Public comment or questions. Okay. Okay, so the recommended city council action before you is to authorize the mayor to execute the Siskiyou Transportation Agency Joint Powers Agreement, JPA, for the direction of the management of the public transportation services in Siskiyou County. Okay.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilman Pro Tim McCoy
Second.
and a second from Councilman Cake. I'll do roll call. Councilman Cake,
Aye.
Councilman Baker,
Yes.
Councilman Pro Tim McCoy,
Aye.
and Mayor Middleton, aye. So the motion passes 4-0. All right. Okay. Item number 8, city manager and staff reports. City manager and staff may make brief announcements or reports at this time.
Hello, City Council members. My name is Juliana Lucchese. I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Wairika. I just wanted to bring to your attention in your mailboxes as well as on the podium and at the door, and members of the public can take as many of these as you want. Please take them and let people know. We have 2 opportunities coming up managed by our hazard resilience planner, Sarah Chaffee. One is this Sunday. We are taking free green waste at the Public Works Yard as part of our air curtain burner program through CAL FIRE and the Cap and Trade grant program. So that is free to everyone who would like to do that. We do request that when you come, that it is woody material, grasses, leaves, it's all just green waste, please. We will not be accepting any other type of solid waste like metal or anything like that. We will not be taking pre-treated wood or construction wood either. We cannot burn that safely within our air curtain. So we will be doing that Sunday, October 20th. You can come and drop that off from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We are not restricting it to members of the city of Wairika. It is open to the general public. We will be doing just a small survey when people come. You don't have to give us your exact address, but we are trying to note where everybody is coming from. It is considered a regional functioning grant, so it is going to be open for the general public in the future. This is going to be our first drop off, so we're just trying to see how much we're going to get on the first take. We're hoping that this becomes a consistent program for people to utilize throughout the year as part of that programming. The second is our hazard resilience workshop. This is part of our local hazard mitigation plan update, as well as our health and safety element of the general plan. It is open to the public. That will be October 22nd from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the community center over off of Oregon. This is basically just going to be talking about some of the results of our hazard mitigation surveying that we've been doing with our stakeholders as well as members of the general public. There's more information on our new emergency information page on the website. We have the survey information there, as well as information on the workshop, just taking general public input on areas of concern, things that they find assets of the community that need to be preserved in cases of emergencies. It doesn't just talk about fire. We'll be talking about flooding, extreme temperatures, everything under the sun related to that. So we wanted to bring that to your attention as well as to the attention of members of the public. Again, we have posted those on our social media page as well. So if you'd like to share those with your family and friends, we just want to get that word out as soon as possible to start doing these programs. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julia. Appreciate it. Mr. Ledbetter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Wairika City Council, Jason Ledbetter, City Manager. Just incredible, quite frankly. This Wairika Green Waste drop-off. I mean, having managed the landfills and the 4 transfer stations for the county, I can tell you right now, you take your green waste to the county and you're going to pay what you pay for garbage. And so this is a huge win because it's free to the public and ultimately helps people that maybe would normally burn that have another opportunity for not having to sit and stare at your burn pile for 12 hours ultimately and not have that danger or risk. So it's a huge win for the community. I mean, one of the most incredible things that we've been a part of, quite frankly. So, and ultimately too, I think just talked about an air curtain burner 4 years ago with Phil Anzo when he was the unit chief for CAL FIRE. And so to see it happen on this coming weekend is quite incredible. So I attended Lola with the majority of you in Montague Wednesday, October 9th. The city of Wairika will be hosting next quarter Lola meeting, and we're scheduling that at Rain Rock Casino in their new event space. And so more information on that one to come. That'll be, I believe, January 8th of 2025. On Monday, October 7th, I attended the Red Scarf Society meeting with Fire Chief Lemos to present educational material on the new fire hall and the additional paid fire staff concepts that we have for the Wairika Volunteer Fire Department. On October 2nd, I attended the YMCA grand opening of the outdoor children's play equipment and then also an ADA ingress from Foothill onto the property. Both very, very cool and look really good with that new fence line that they have around the property. But a huge event. YMCA always does a fabulous job. On 10/3, I attended a tour of Fall Creek with our water attorney and Public Works water manager and obviously our Public Works director. As we continue to look for opportunities within water as far as redundancy and just securing more water sources. We have a very secure water source at the moment. We use only half of the righted water that we have, but ultimately we're always on the look for redundancy and to make water in the city of Wairika something that hopefully none of us ever have to worry about. The theater HVAC unit has arrived. Pictures got sent out. It's a 40-ton unit, so it's 80,000 pounds. We had Evans lay the concrete pad a couple months ago, so it is seated right on that pad. It's a gigantic unit, and roofing has started from the municipal projects manager earlier today in our discussion. The roofing project or that phase has started as well. So this thing is moving very rapidly now. And then finally, what we commonly refer to as the Burgess Street project, the sewer project, but is really the Wairika Collection Systems project is nearly complete. With only trench patching for the road left to do, the project was a $7 million grant-funded project from the state of California with no cost to the city of Wairika residents for replacing 12,000 feet of 6 to 18-inch main lines, 5,100 feet of laterals with cleanouts, 35 manholes, 17 rod holes, 950 feet of 6 and 8-inch water mains, and 2 fire hydrants. So Public Works just continues to churn out state revolving fund grant infrastructure improvement projects. And there's plenty more to come. So that's all I have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ledbetter. Council members. Who wants to go first? Yeah. Paul has that thing. So we'll go. You're always right there, ready to go. Eager. Councilman Baker.
Thank you so much, Mayor Middleton. I attended the LAFCO meeting on October 8th, where we approved the sphere of influence for the response areas for the fire departments and fire districts in the county. And Chief Lemus, thank you so much for attending that meeting. And there were no changes made for Wairika Fire Department's sphere of influence, their response area. So I also attended the Lola dinner in Montague last week. And it was pretty exciting to hear each of the cities talk about everything that they have going on. You know, we're moving and shaking here in Siskiyou County. So that's pretty exciting. Mr. Ledbetter took me to view the new HVAC system for the Wairika Community Theater. That was personally very exciting. It was. It's nice to see that unit in place. I just would like to go on the record as stating I'm really concerned about something that I'm seeing happening on the streets of Wairika. And this in no mean, I do not intend this to be any kind of criticism of Wairika Police Department. But I live on Knapp Street and we have a couple of dirt bike riders that are racing up and down the street. And I've heard that they're racing in other areas of Wairika as well. They're doing acrobatics, like standing on their seats and going 50 miles an hour. I'm just really concerned that somebody's going to get hurt. That and it may be one of those young men that's riding those bikes. And I don't know what can be done about it, but I certainly would like something done. And then I just have a couple of questions for you, Mr. Ledbetter. During public comment, there was comments made about some bleachers at the school that are in disrepair. Is that a city responsibility or is that the school's responsibility?
Yeah, we don't own that. That would be Wairika High School, but I can convey that kind of concern to the superintendent because what we do own over there is the parking lot in between Ringy Park and that location where football games and the track and all that happens. And there's no affiliated parking lot other than ours. And we currently are working with the superintendent who had requested to remove the parking spots in the center of that parking lot because it was just way too difficult to get out. And so when we engage him on that, I will convey the frustration from the member of the community over the bleachers on the home side. I'm familiar with what Don Marie is talking about, but yeah, that's not city property.
Thank you. And then my last question is when there is street work that's done, is there a notification process for the residents of that area?
Yeah, generally like on the Burgess Street project, there's door hangers that go out in advance to notify that something is going to be closed. So if you lived in the neighborhood where work was getting done, then you would get a door hanger stating as I lived in an area where this project, it didn't have an impact really on the road. It had more of an impact on, there was a shut off of water. And so ultimately days in advance, we get notified by that flyer, but I can validate whether or not that had happened. But that is our standard policy, is that if we're going to be working in front of your house and you can't access that location, you'll get a door hanger generally that states that days in advance, that tells you when work is getting done.
Thank you. I guess I missed that at my house and I was kind of unable to get out today. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Well, I will convey that to Public Works.
thank you.
Yep.
Just one final statement. They did great work though. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Baker. Councilman Hague.
All righty. I too attended the Lola meeting, which was really a lot of good information about different cities and whatnot. Our sheriff was there and he gave a little presentation too, which was really informative. He also, I don't know how far I can talk about this, but I cornered him after the Lola meeting too, Sheriff LaRue, I should say, and asked him about Prop 36 too, and what his take was on Prop 36, if he agreed with it and was supportive of it, and just so I myself is supportive of it too. That's my own personal. I'm not putting that on any pressure on anybody else, but I do encourage everybody to read up on Prop 36, which has a discussion of when it decriminalized petty theft, well, Prop 47, I think it was, decriminalized petty theft and decriminalized basically a lot of drug use. And this actually reinstates some of that. So I think I look at everybody and have them look into this Prop 36 and really examine it, because I feel it's a good thing myself. That's my own personal, and so does the sheriff, and it also is support of most of the DAs across the state of California too. So that's my own personal take on that. Going to the COC, I did not go to the last COC meeting because of personal reasons, so I did not attend that meeting. I did have a point in time meeting today where a further discussion was the pit surveys. So whoever wants to be involved in the point in time count, please come see me. We're going to have a strategy meeting here soon. We haven't set the date, but if anybody's interested in being a part of the point in time count, that's counting the homeless, which will be the last week in January, please get a hold of me. We're going to have, like I said, a strategy meeting on that here within the next week. So Mr. McCoy, I don't know how rambunctious you're going to be feeling, but I would love to have you see you there for sure. Then, back to the HVAC. Thank you for getting that done, that project done, Mr. Ledbetter and staff and everybody. Getting that done. It was definitely been, I know, a passion of the three of us here sitting on the council. Nothing against Miss Baker there, but this has been going on for a long time. So it's finalized and it's finally done. We've been pushing on this for years to get this done. Last administration did not want that system, or did not want that building, and wanted to donate it to whoever, and we did not want to see it go. It's too much of a valuable asset for the community. So I thank the rest of the council too, and all the newcomer councils at the time, for help pushing this through and getting this thing done, because it's a valuable asset for the community. Also I'm seeing through the League of California Cities, they're having a roundtable discussion on October 29th. And I think my main question would be for our attorney. Do you know about that? Or are you attending that one? Which one? So that one is on homelessness. and what it is about homelessness and what the Supreme Court is and the decision going on that and how it affects the cities and stuff like that. I didn't know if you're aware of it and if we're gonna attend that on that. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, yes, I am planning on attending that.
Good,
Yes.
because that sounds like it's gonna be valuable information that could be relayed for the city, and, you know, I'm gonna be getting off on this whole situation, so I encourage the council to be involved in what that means, especially what the court case was on Grants Pass and how it's gonna have effect on all the cities in the future, and this is what this discussion is gonna be, a roundtable discussion on that. So I was reading up on that, and it's like, it's gonna be a lot of information, so I also think it's not only for our city attorney, but if any of the council wants to be involved in that too, you can sign up and be involved in it too. And last, I got a question and a comment and possible discussion item for our council. In the past, oh geez, it's probably been 2 years ago, maybe even prior to that, because it might have been before before Ms. Baker came on board and stuff. We had a discussion about the needle exchange program. I don't know, were you involved in that, Ms. Baker? Okay. We had a discussion on the needle exchange program and where the needles were handed out. And at the time, we basically said no needle exchange programs in Greenhorn Park. As I recall, there was never any more discussion brought up on that, Mr. Ledbetter, on where it was allowed. It was just allowed in other parts, but not in just Greenhorn Park, correct?
There was no action ever taken on any item over the county's Sharps needle exchange program. There was talk in the past. I know we brought this item before you maybe 3 times. I think there was talk in the past that Oroville had outlawed the
Correct.
program in their city, and so there was discussion or interest on that, but we've not ever itemized any. There's never been a vote that stated what is acceptable and not acceptable, but I could attempt to have that person, I think it's a new person actually, because I think the old person now works for General Services. So if you want to have that topic brought back, I can certainly have the county notified to see if they'll come to a future meeting.
Absolutely, that would be great. That's exactly what I'd like to see done, brought that back in front of the council. As Mr. Ledbetter stated, the city of Oroville did outlaw it on city property, the needle exchange program. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because this last week I was doing cleanup around town and I found in one batch area 8 needles laying on the ground where I walk my grandson, I might as well say. And later on, 2 days later, I was in another spot on a park and found 2 more needles laying around. So I'm not real happy about the needle exchange program. That's my own personal view on it. But I would definitely like to have that conversation with the rest of the council and see how they feel and have it addressed and brought back and why that program is there. I would like, as my own personal view, I would like to see that needle exchange program be only available at the county building, but that's my own personal view. That's why I would like future discussion on that. I do not like seeing needles laying around that kids could pick up and poke themselves and possibly have an infection or die from it. So that's my view on that. So thank you, Mr. Ledbetter, if you can bring that back. I'd appreciate if there's any possible way we can bring that back before I get off council. I'd really like to see that if at all possible. And if that's okay with the rest of the council, sorry. What's the council's wishes on that?
You're on till like by December 5th or something.
Depending on how the vote goes, yeah.
We have been notified by Laura that really the second meeting in December will be more than likely the changeover meeting. It will not be before that, so.
We have time.
If it's okay with the council, would you like to see it before I get off of the council?
It would also be we're at the mercy of scheduling with the Public
county,
Works
yeah.
Director or the Public Health Director at
Right.
the county.
If possible.
Yeah, Mr. Ledbetter could. look into and let us know what they can do.
Thank you.
Sure.
And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. I'll make mine really quick because kind of echoing some of the other council members is yeah, we all went to the League of Cities meeting. Some great information, listening to everybody, all the cities of great things and some changes with a lot of their council coming up as well. So there's a lot of long-termers exiting, and so we'll see a lot of new faces coming up at the dinners probably in the future. So um the theater, I could be more ecstatic, and I think Councilman Baker was part of it for the because we had to change some. We had some changes that they were a part of, so so they were a part of it. So when people ask when things aren't getting done or you're not doing anything, it's we are doing stuff. But that was a discussion when I first had taken my seat, so 4 years, and that's now just getting done. So that's how fast things work. Just think a council member can sit here for 4 years and talk about something, and it's now getting completed. Just like Main Street was 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when I first took my seat, looking at the picture boards of design for the sidewalks, the lights we picked out, just all the design. So that's one thing that I learned, to have some patience, that government does not happen fast. All these great things come before you, and then 4 years later, they're now getting done. So, but I'm glad they're getting done because the theater is much needed. Main Street's looking great. A lot of great things are happening in the city of Wairika, and hopefully some more to come. And it's going to be just in the hands of the future council, whether I be sitting here or not, whoever takes maybe my place or Mr. Kaig's place. The momentum's there. Good things come to those who wait, I should say. And a lot of us here, the previous council members that sat here my first 2 years, and also my second half here, we've been working hard for the city and the citizens. So it's great to see things coming together. Yes.
I just want to before you adjourn the meeting,
Okay.
If that's where you're headed, I just want to remind everyone, the clerk just reminded me that the city council had voted in the past to cancel some meetings, and the next one that was scheduled for November 5th, it was decided at a prior meeting that meeting is canceled based off of the election that day. So there is no meeting on November 5th. And we will come back for the second meeting in November, will be the next meeting that the city council has. So no meeting on November 5th. That was canceled at a prior meeting based off the election.
Right. And then I think our own Councilman Baker, she volunteers at a polling, don't you? Yeah. So she wanted, oh,
Well, unless I wanted to drive an hour at, 4 o'clock in the morning.
oh, geez. Okay, well, she's gonna have a day off then, and to sit back and what. But anyways, I think that's all I have. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but with that, I will adjourn. Feels later, sure getting dark earlier. My goodness, it's only 8 o'clock and it's pitch dark. 'Tis the season. So thank you, everybody.